Hey guys, how you doing? This is Joel Jonoi. I'm an orthopedic resident at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. Advice for medical students or pre-med students. A few things that I would focus on is, of course, your grades. Make sure that you're trying to stay at the top of your class. Make sure that you take care with whatever assignments, whatever projects you're doing. Make sure you get involved in research. It doesn't have to be You don't have to be a pre-med student. Just make sure that whatever subject you go into, you enjoy it and that you can excel in it, because they're going to ask you questions about that on any interview. Big things too in regards to applying to medical school. You get out of your comfort zone. If you are a Texas resident or if you're somewhere else, apply broadly. You never know where you might get in. When you apply too as well, before you do, make sure you ask upper or previous individuals who are in medical school in regards to their experience and what that certain school that you're applying to, what they care about, because they're gonna want to make sure that you have a good fit for them as well. Another thing too is make sure you figure out what makes you unique. And for me, an example, I'm really into mission work, so that's something that I talked about, and that's something that I'm pursuing. So medical schools looked at that as an investment and something they would like to craft. So if you have something that a medical school can build upon, they'll look at you and they will give you the time of day, which is important. Another thing is make sure you're honest. During interviews, they will know if you're lying, if you're making things up. Make sure you know your resume in and out. Make sure you're not padding it, which is an issue that occurs with other applicants. Big things, and on a flip note, a big thing in regards to medical school is, of course, your Mcat. It's changed since the last time I've taken it, but the core values of taking the Mcat is test taking skills. So make sure, I would recommend either a Kaplan course or maybe a Princeton Review course or something of that nature, just to give you building blocks. You don't have to complete it all, but just know that it'll give you a way to understand how to take the test and the changes that are coming through it. Questions is never going to change. If you get into medical school and you take your step 1 and step 2, questions. That's the same thing that you see on the MCAT. And have a positive attitude. If you don't succeed, try again. That's it.
All right. I understand you've been a doctor for about 2 months now.
Yeah.
How's that transition been from a medical student to a doctor? Was that a rough transition? And any tips for like fourth year medical students going into their intern year?
Well, it all depends on where you start. It wasn't it wasn't the smoothest transition. It's a high learning curve. However, I'm in a great institution, surrounded by great residents. So they'll really teach you things and help you get along. But once you get the ball rolling, it gets fun and it gets exciting, and you're able to learn a lot. You're able to do a lot. And you develop a comfort zone pretty quickly. So I think it's institutional dependent and your work ethic that comes together and helps build you up and up and up. So.
Hey y'all, my name is Abid Abdelaziz. I'm a medical student at UT Houston Medical School. And some advice, if some pre-med were to ask me, study what you want in undergrad. I thought it mattered what major you are, but it really doesn't. Study what you enjoy, and as long as you can maintain that high GPA and do well in the MCAT, you're all set.
Hey, I'm Jason Thompson, a fourth year orthopedic surgery resident at UT Health Science Center, San Antonio. First of all, this message for any pre-med students or pre-high school, anyone trying to head to medical school, congrats and good luck. It's a long road, but as I get closer to the end, the finish line, certainly is worth it. It's been a lot of hard work and worth it, but so I was in everyone who's made it this far and further where I'm at has been in your shoes, and so the first thing you have to think about is make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. You want to make sure you're on task and you have your mindset and that you're doing it for the right reasons. If you're doing it for any other reasons, it may be too long of a road, too hard of a road to get down. So if once you've decided you're down that road and you're fully committed, which it does take full commitment, I recommend that first you want to know first you want to be diverse, and not only the things that you can't control, but things you can control. And so things you can control are broaden your horizons when it comes to a major, for instance, or experiences. I believe do as many things as possible and make sure you own them and make sure you enjoy them. Don't just do them to check boxes, although there are times that you do have to check boxes. For instance, I don't know that a major matters. I think as long as you've done prerequisites and the sciences, I think that's enough. And then a lot of the med schools now are looking for people who maybe have something different. And maybe you're a music major and you just did your prereqs and you can talk about music to the nth degree. And I think that looks very. They look upon that highly. I think it shows that you can bring something different to the table rather than someone who's kind of gone through the sciences all the way through. That being said, the people who do that usually know early and have committed early, and I think that person is a valuable person too, especially if you again own it and do the supersede everybody and do again to the nth degree, as I said earlier. Things that I've learned through the process. Study. There's never a moment where you can't learn more, especially when it comes to the Mcat and studying for the Mcat. I wasn't personally the greatest test taker. I actually had to take the Mcat a couple times, 3 to be exact, just because 1, I was prematurely taking the test the first 2 times, and 2, I thought maybe because I did well in my classes that meant that I was going to do well in the Mcat. So I required a course in the end, and I think one of those private courses that you take, I think there's plenty now, and it's well worth it, especially if you really buy into it and use it wisely. Do as many questions as you can, do as much as you can for the MCAT. That's probably the game changer because most people come with good GPAs. If your GPA isn't good, I think taking more classes to help your GPA. If you're too far in where you can't change it, then I think find other areas to strengthen your application or your strategy. I think being well-rounded and having a lot of things to talk about is really probably the most important thing. And I think these days, because it's so competitive, I think the medical schools are looking for unique people, and so with a story that can help them change their med school and be the next greatest of whatever. So.
And speaking about unique people, Dr. Thompson, I understand that you were a professional athlete before. Can you quickly tell us about the transition from your professional career to medicine?
Well, it's been more than 10 years ago now. I'd hate for any current soccer players to challenge me, but I played professional soccer for 4 years. In 2003, I was drafted. They were Dallas Burn then, have since changed their name to FC Dallas. At which point I was there for 2 years and then was traded to DC United, where I later won a championship with them in 2004. Unfortunately, my career was riddled with injuries. I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus my rookie season, well, before it even started. So spent much of my year fighting injuries, soft tissue injuries, and really didn't play as much as I want, which because of the injuries, I was often in the training room or on the injured reserve. So it led me to a point where I was looking for something more, and I retired after a few years and it transitioned into medicine, and it's been as hard as becoming a professional soccer player was. This has been a harder but much more gratifying in my mind road, and I think to reiterate earlier points I made, there's nothing better feeling than when I was where y'all were or are, whether it's high school, college, wanting to do this and then finally making it despite every trial and tribulations. Don't let anyone fool you. There are so many tough hurdles along the way, and each time you get stronger and stronger. And when you're finally getting near the end, I'll tell you, it is a pretty remarkable feeling. So, as much as my previous career was very, very satisfying, and I wouldn't change it, even despite all the injuries, I would take this a million times over, and it's worth it. So everybody who's looking for motivation, dig down, and I promise, if I can do it, I think anyone else can. You just need to bunker in and work hard and be well-rounded.
Hi, my name is Adam, and I'm a fourth-year med student. One thing I wish I'd learned before I started med school was that it's important to find a group of like-minded individuals to help create a culture of success and discipline as you create your journey to becoming a doctor. Med school is a long journey. It's a marathon. And in any enterprise, it's helpful to have a group of like-minded individuals that help you reach that goal. As an undergrad student, I would often study alone. When I entered med school, I found that it is more helpful to find a group of people who could help you reach those goals. You all could compare notes, help create study schedules, and essentially go through that journey together. I think there's an African proverb that I personally like that helps encapsulate this mantra. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This is one important lesson that I feel would have been immensely helpful for myself and all med students upon starting their journey for med school.